friends, welcome back to my studio. So today I'm going to show you a very special project, and that's because it's my teacup template project. So I made this template myself for anyone to make a teacup. This is a really great beginner project, and you can make something that looks just like this. So let's get into it. So I will have links to all of the tools that you need down below in the description. But of course you're going to need my template. So you can get this template also by clicking in a link down below, and you get this template whenever you sign up for my newsletter. So definitely get signed up. I've got lots of free goodies like this in my newsletter and also updates about the studio. So first thing you need to do is just cut up the template. So if you had never made anything with pottery before, I do have some instructions on how to assemble this template, but I'll also show you here in this video. So I'm going to be working with a stoneware clay. This clay, like I often use, is recycled clay from our various classes that I have in the studio. And I really love to use recycled clay because you can get some cool like marbling in the final result, and you never really quite know what color you're going to get out of it. So I'm going to wedge this up and roll out a slab, and then we can cut out our pieces. Okay, so I have my templates laid out on my slab, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut them out. Now, don't stress about being perfect. I mean, this is not about perfection, this is clay. You can always squidge it a little bit here and there, which is why the material is so fun. But I do suggest when you're cutting it out, you use a sharp knife. And keep in mind when you're holding the knife, the angle that you're holding it at. You wanna be holding it like straight down and not like cutting at an angle. It's really easy to just like start to fall into that angle, but you wanna keep it straight down. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start cutting out my pieces. Okay, so I have my pieces here, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the body of the teapot. And first, of course, we need to attach these two sides together, right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut at an angle, at about a 45-degree angle along one of the sides. On your template, this says attach here. These are the parts that you want to cut. And then once you've cut one 45-degree angle, you want to make sure that you flip it over to cut the other one. If you forget to flip it over, you're going to have two sharp sides that don't actually overlap, and that's not the goal here. The goal here is to have these two sides that overlap like that to create a clean line where you don't have this bulky overlap. We're gonna try and make this line disappear as much as possible. Okay, so for this next step, I'm going to be using this scoring tool and some water and a paintbrush to attach these two sides together. So this process is called slipping and scoring. You wanna scratch the two sides that are going to connect to one another, and then we're gonna add some water to make them stick. I'm going to lay the two sides on top of each other, line them up, and press them together. So at this moment, I'm not worried about this disappearing yet. I want to make sure I have a good attachment And then I'm going to let it dry out a little bit before I clean it up. So I always want to let this dry for about 5 minutes or so. Okay, so once it's been about 5 minutes, you can go ahead and smooth over any lines that still show. And be sure to also get the inside as well. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and attach the bottom to the body of the pot. So this bottom is clearly too big for this pot, and I did that intentionally because you'd never want to cut the bottom off of a slab built pot before you actually attach the walls to it. So this is what I do. I'll put the pot directly on the bottom here, and then I'm going to mark where it touches with a tool, like a scoring tool. Take it off, flip it over, and then I can score right inside this line where it should attach. So I'm going to go ahead and score all the way around. And then you also want to score the bottom here where it's going to attach. Add a touch of water. Flip it over and push them together. So when I'm pushing, I don't want to just push down from the top because I could damage the walls. So what I like to do is I like to hold the whole pot in my hands like this and like kind of redistribute all of the pressure and kind of push the whole thing down. Meanwhile, I'm twisting the pot so that it can start to grab on where it needs to get stuck to. Don't want to do too much pressure or you'll deform your pot. And I'm just pushing and turning until I feel like it's not sliding anymore. It's really grabbed onto that bottom. That's about now. And then I like to flip it over and do some taps to make sure it's really well stuck. And then you want to wait again another 5 minutes or so that all the water can soak in, and then you can go ahead and cut it off. Okay, so now that our pot has been drying out for about 5 minutes, we can go ahead and take our knife and cut off the excess. And then I'm going to use my finger to smooth the bottom into the top and get rid of that line. Then I'm gonna try and get my finger on the inside as well. I wanna make sure if I'm gonna use this teacup that I want to have no cracks on the inside where dirt can build up. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is attach our handle. And so attaching the handle is going to be basically the same thing, but of course you're going to have smaller connection points. So what I like to do first is I like to cut each side at a slight angle. So about 45 degrees. Yeah. Once again, I'm flipping it, so I have the taper going upward on one side and the taper going downward on the other side. Start to shape it into a handle shape. And now the tapers start to make sense, right? Because we're going to be up against something flat here now. Yeah. So it's gonna fit like that. So what I like to do is I like to put the handle actually on the seam of the cup because I think this helps to kind of like disguise the seam. The seam never completely goes away, so you want to kind of disguise it if you can. So I'm going to lay it right on top. And just like when I was attaching the bottom, I want to mark where it's going to attach. So I'm going to mark just above and below each a connection point, and then I'm going to score. And then of course you want to score your handle too. I'll add a little bit of water and push it in. So at this point you have to be really careful to not crush your handle while you're pushing. So I like to keep my other hand on the inside to support the wall of the pot, and then I'm pushing sort of behind the handle down into the pot. Once again, don't worry about how messy it looks right now. First, we want to make sure we have a really good attachment, and then we can worry about cleaning it up. Great, so I'm going to go ahead and once again let this dry out for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and do our final touches. Okay, so to finish up this piece, I'm going to just basically smooth out any weird bits. I have a bit of a sharp edge along the rim here. I'm gonna go ahead and smooth that out. And anything that you see needs smoothing, basically, you wanna smooth it now. We're gonna avoid sanding our pots when they're bisqued. And next, if you want to sign your pot, you'll want to go ahead and do that right now. And then you'll want to let it dry out and put it into the bisque. Then you'll want to glaze it and put it back into the kiln for the final fire, and then I'll show you the results right now. So I hope that tutorial was helpful for you. If you want to get the teapot template, you can do so just by signing up for my newsletter. I'll have that linked right down below. Yeah, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below as well. Or you can reach out to me on Instagram @potterytothepeople. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.